Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call this meeting of the Brooklyn City Council to order.
I know all the things I said out. Yeah.
Kevin Tansky.
Here.
Barb Politsky.
Here.
Ron Van Kirk.
Here.
Tony DeMarco.
Here.
Debbie Tomusco.
Here.
Kathy Pucci.
She is absent excused.
Mary Belbeer.
Here.
Would you please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for being a part of our council meeting this evening. Let me just go through the agenda for this evening. Although they did not appear on your agenda this evening, we still do have 3 items held in abeyance. They will remain in abeyance this evening as well. Under old business, up for third reading and adoption is ordinance 2017-36. This is authorizing the purchase of a Toolcat 5600 G Series Bobcat from Bobcat Company for $52,866.92. This will be through government contract. Ordinance 2017-38 is authorizing the sale of certain city-owned vehicles through the Greater Cleveland Auto Auction, public auctioneers, and gov deals for the purpose of disposing of city vehicles and equipment at public sale. On second reading this evening is ordinance 2017-43, authorizing and approving the purchase and installation of security cameras and ancillary items for use at the Brooklyn Community Senior Center. Ordinance 2017-44, amending section 134501 permit fees of the codified ordinance of the City of Brooklyn. Ordinance 2017-45, amending chapter 1361 occupancy permits of the codified ordinance of the City of Brooklyn. Under new business this evening, we have resolution 2017-7, a resolution in support of the city's application for a North Coast Brownfield Coalition Community Assessment Initiative Guidelines Grant. Ordinance 2017-46, amending section 303.99, General Traffic Code misdemeanor classifications and penalties of the codified ordinances of the City of Brooklyn. Ordinance 2017-47, amending section 3 of Ordinance 2017-3, establishing Souza Fitness and Wellness Community Partner rates for certain programs at the John M. Coyne Recreation Center and Natatorium. Ordinance 2017-48, authorizing a contract modification to the audit services agreement with James Zupka, CPA, for the audit periods 2015 to 2018. Then lastly is Ordinance 2017-49, authorizing a community cost-sharing agreement with Northeast Ohio Regional Sewer District for the Road-Own Road Improvement Project. And that is our agenda for this evening. At this time, we will have the public session. If anyone in the audience has anything to say for the good and well for the City of Brooklyn, please step forward, state your name and address, and you'll be recognized. Please remember to keep your comments to 5 minutes or fewer.
Andrea Georgi, 9508 Beerwald. I'll save any history. I just want to say I'm proud of Brooklyn. Down with issue 3. That was awesome. Totally awesome. Leeches are thinking that we're down and out and selling the furniture. We're not down and out. And we will have an audit. Because I made a in close contact with taxes and tax collections, because in the last 3 of the 4 years that I worked at the Cleveland Clinic, my city taxes were not paid to Cleveland but to Brooklyn. And so I got to know the insides a little bit and of how much Brooklyn collects just in what we earn. And then also I would like to suggest that since a couple of businesses here and there and even a very thriving restaurant left, and we don't have an economics development as Anthony DeMarco just mentioned, according to what we see in the effects, we don't have one. We have a wonderful location. That's how we got the Plain Dealer. We had the best location of the communities that wanted it. And so with every other situation, I would suggest, why not hire real estate companies and say, you have these lots, you have those lots. There are stores now all of a sudden empty on Memphis. Pay attention, look at that. And then why not part the top store? That store is so huge. And why not partition it into 3, 4 little shops? Do something. Make use of the parking lot that we have there. It's summer. Why not have some carnival-like exhibits? And for crying out loud, bring back our dispatchers. That's not a cost savings. And it has nothing to do with having to explain if others had the same experience where I am. Because at another point, I called 9/11. There was no question on where I'm calling from or my location. They knew that right away and acted on it. So we need our people back. We need our police department be made whole, and just look at the finances, okay? We do have the monies. Trust me. Good enough. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Victor Ardito, 7439 Outlook Avenue, Brooklyn. I'd like to advertise for the Pediatric Brain Tumor Foundation again. We're having a fundraiser at Tony K's Saturday, May 20th, 7:30 to 10:30. They're at 841 West Bagley Road in Berea. It's from 7:30 to 10:30. Tickets are $25 per person. Active military, police, and fire are $20. It includes tickets, wings, pizza, pasta, rigatoni, salad, buffet, beer, and pop. There'll be auctions, raffles, and things, etc. We're also selling a booze basket, which has about 10 bottles of booze. I didn't take exact count. Tickets are $5 a piece or 5 for $20. You need not be present to win. I'd like to mention about issue 3 also. Every other city has, many cities have designed to go to type of issue 3 where you can build more creatively. And Brooklyn needs to do that. I mean, it's hip, hip, and hooray. Yeah, we put it down. Well, we're $6 million short. It's not coming back no matter what anyone says. It's gone. We need to keep it here. There's only X amount of money. The school system's hurting. You read the profit there. We get $600 some per student, where other schools gets $1,200. We need this. Yes, we may lose part of the park, but the park also, this area is very prime location for buildings, offices, and things. It would be a shame to lose the park, but I'd rather lose some of the park, maybe 3/4, I don't know. But I'd rather have the park go away than our police, fire, and other things. I don't think they're threatening us. It's a fact of life. There's only so much money to go around. Unless you got a tree in the backyard, start shaking. And everybody else was happy they put the school levy down. People, you put the school levy that was up, I don't know, 8 years ago or so for a complete new campus. Would have been beautiful. All new buildings. Voted that down. Brought back a half a plan to build half a school. Great, that was great. Now the whole part of the school needs repairs. Now we're not going to pay for it. You'll figure out how to do it. Again, only so much money to go around. I don't like higher taxes, but if things don't change, issue 3 doesn't pass, where we can build 4 people the way they want, hello, here comes more taxes and here comes less services. Thank you.
Hi everybody, Steve Herbick, 4402 South Amber. I just wanted to thank the voters of Brooklyn for soundly defeating issue 3. With 2 or 3 voters against utilizing a portion of the vast majority or a portion or vast majority of our park, which many by way of their vote consider the heart and soul of our community, I hope city leaders will remember these numbers the next time this issue comes up and during the re-election runs. I also wanted to thank the volunteers who assisted going door to door to provide vital information to oppose this issue, and to the members of City Council who voted last Thursday to not support issue 3. Hopefully we can come together as a community to find a solution to our money woes while at the same time preserving our pristine Veterans Memorial Park. Lastly, I wanted to take a moment and talk about abstaining votes by city council members. In my opinion, abstaining should really rarely take place in any vote unless there's a direct personal or business conflict of interest. For example, you're investing in a company, the solar company that's going to be built on the old landfill. As council members, you're elected and salaries paid by the voters of Brooklyn to render a decision, and abstaining, in my opinion, is the easy way out and not what leaders should do. In my opinion, it sends the wrong message to the voters. Thank you.
Anyone else have anything to say for the good and welfare of the city of Brooklyn? Okay. We will now move on with our reports of committees, commissions, and boards, and we begin this evening with the Board of Zoning Appeals, Commissioner Colsar.
Thank you, Mr. Van Kurt. The Board of Zoning Appeals met on Thursday, April 20th. They heard a request from Thomas P. Caruso for a 42-inch height variance for a fence in the side yard of the property. A 6-foot high fence was proposed 30 inches from the neighboring house at 4726 Brookwood Drive. What was approved was a 22-inch height variance. A little bit of deliberation was made, and the 22-inch variance was approved. The next meeting, scheduled for May 18th, has been canceled as no applications were received. Thank you. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Colsar. Next up is Planning Commission, Mr. DeMarco.
The Planning Commission met last Thursday, May 4th at 6 p.m. in the conference room. There was a request from Riverstone Company, David A. Pietranton, for a preliminary site approval at 4800 Idlewood Drive, permanent parcel number 433-14-001, 433-14-070, and 433-14073. There was also a request from the same party for the same lot, for a consolidation and lot split. That was approved by the Planning Commission. Just a little bit more detail, they would like to proceed with this first phase of the development, which would have 58 assisted living facilities and 22 memory care units. The second item we looked at was a request from Matthew L. Weber for a preliminary site plan for a 4-story 85-room hotel on Tiedemann Road, pertinent parcel number 433-09018 and 433-09017. Same person also requested a conditional use for a 4-story 85-room hotel, and also a lot consolidation approval for the same parcels. The commission voted 3-2 to defer the request for additional information, and that's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. DeMarco. Next up is the Finance Committee report. We did meet this evening at 6:30, just prior to our council meeting. There were several items on our agenda. I will just go over the ones that are up for third reading and adoption and the new business this evening. Ordinance 2017-36. This is to authorize the purchase of a Toolcat 5600G Series Bobcat from Bobcat Company for a $52,866.92. This purchase was approved during the 2017 capital plan and will come out of the Capital Projects Fund 400. Ordinance 2017-38. Authorizing the sale of certain city-owned vehicles to the Greater Cleveland Auto Auction, Public Auctioneers, and Gov Deals for the purpose of disposing city vehicles. If this ordinance is approved, this will dispose of a 2011 Jacobson Turf Cat, a 1998 truck that was used by our animal warden, a 2010 Crown Victoria, a 1994 International Salt Truck, 10 walk-behind mowers, and a 1975 Zamboni. Both of these ordinances were recommended for council to adopt by the Finance Committee. Ordinance 2017-43 is on second reading. We'll have to amend this evening. This is to authorize and approve the purchase and installation of security cameras and ancillary items at the Brooklyn Community Senior Center. This is for purchase of cameras and equipment. It was part of our capital purchases budget that we talked about at the beginning of the year. And this is to help with security in the Senior Center, with the park being right behind it, just to make sure that all of that stuff is monitored and that is recorded. And we had an original quote from IPS for $12,474.64. That was part of our last meeting. Since our last meeting, Bailey Communications offered a lower proposal, and that cost is $11,059.50. And so this will be amended this evening and placed on second reading. Resolution 2017-7. This is a resolution in support of the city's application for a North Coast Brownfield Coalition Community Assessment Initiative Guidelines Grant. And this resolution expresses City Council support for the application for grant funding underneath this grant program. And this is necessary to apply for the grant. And what this does, this will help reimburse the city expenses related to the civil and engineer consultants in preparation for the Rule 13 permit, which is an application for the solar project at the landfill. And these expenses are not expected to exceed $11,000. The city has indicated its support for approval of this grant reimbursement to the city. And the process has already been discussed at the Sustainability Committee meeting. They approved it moving forward with the solar panel farm. So this resolution will allow us to apply for that grant. Ordinance 2017-46, amending section 303.99, General Traffic Code misdemeanor classifications and penalties of the codified ordinance of the City of Brooklyn. This ordinance will allow for the doubling of fines in construction zones in Brooklyn. The state already permits this under state law, but it's not part of the Brooklyn ordinances. Brooklyn has already had 2 construction workers hit while doing construction on the highway. So this hopefully will help to ensure their safety of both the construction and the safety personnel. Ordinance 2017-47, amending section 3 of ordinance 2017-3, establishing SOZA Fitness and Wellness Community Partner rates for certain programs at the John M. Cohen Recreation Center. Earlier this year, council approved an ordinance that partnered with SOZA Fitness to offer different classes at the senior center. This is an additional class they'd like to offer, and this will be a $35 monthly fitness class. SOZA will initially collect all of the revenue from the participants and then pay 20% of that money back to the city. Ordinance 2017-48, we do hope to pass by emergency this evening. This authorizes a contract modification of the audit services agreement with James G. Zupka CPA for the audit periods 2015 to 2018. Zupka is our auditor for the books here in the city of Brooklyn, and this ordinance amends the previous agreement to permit the funding for a single audit required for the Tiedemann Road street project that exceeded the $750,000 federal threshold. The federal law states that if you exceed $750,000 in a project, that needs to be audited, so we're adding that to our agreement with Zupka. Ordinance 2017-49, authorizing a community cost-sharing agreement with Northeast Ohio Regional Sewer District for the Road and Room Improvement Project. This ordinance authorizes the city to enter into a community cost-share agreement with the sewer district, which right now that fund is up to about between $215,000 and $220,000. $200,000 of these funds will be used to offset the city's cost of repaving of Road on Road. It's a very expensive project, but this will at least help cover some of those costs. And that is all we had for the finance meeting this evening. We'll now move on with reports of council, and this evening we begin with Mr. Tansky.
Just have a couple of things. One is Youth Opportunities ended their start of their job search as far as the residents that have applied to the Youth Opportunities website. There were 36 registrations and 19 were invited. That means that the 19 met the criteria of the Youth Opportunities applications. 8 to 12 of those jobs are going to TJ Maxx, 4 will go to Brooklyn Rec, 1 will go to the public library, and 2 jobs over to Pizza Hut. Some of those jobs might be moved around according to Youth Opportunities and how far they're away from these jobs. Got a better result than last year. Last year I know we were down from the Brooklyn's kids to basically apply to Youth Opportunities. We didn't have the numbers last year. This year we did. Now those 19 that were invited that met the criteria have to go through interview process, which will be more in depth, and hopefully that they will continue so we can retain these jobs in the city. My thoughts on the outcome of issue 3. I think by not passing this issue sets the city back as far as generating more needed revenue. I've heard it all when I walked the neighborhood. From Section 8 housing to high rises as tall as the Terminal Tower downtown, to dismantling the park totally. When it comes to distorting the truth, this hit the all-time high. Now the problem still remains. How to create more revenue for the city. Issue 3 was also a major player for the school system on generating more revenue. This also sets the school district back on producing revenue for the much-needed school system and how to slow down school levies that keep hitting the ballot. The bottom line, issue 3 was a major job creator and revenue producer and would have been handled in a way through a thorough vetting process. With that being said, issue 3 was defeated by our residents, and we have to accept the decision and move on. And Mr. Ardito, I totally agree on your comments, and I appreciate it. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Tansky. Next up is Mrs. Politsky.
Thank you, Mr. Van Kirk. I'm not going to say anything about issue 3 because Mr. Tansky said it all. But the trees and the spring flowers are putting on a lovely showing. I hope the residents are taking advantage of this display and walking in our park. I would like to wish a happy Mother's Day to all mothers out there. I hope you enjoy your day. The school board will meet on Tuesday, May 16th at 6 p.m. And as the liaison for the school board, I will be there and I will bring back a report on that at the next meeting. The Laurel Garden Club is holding its annual plant sale on Saturday, May 20th from 9 till 2 o'clock at the Senior Center, 7727 Memphis Avenue. The funds raised are used to pay for VeggieU program for third graders at Brooklyn Elementary, to plant at the library in Memorial Park, and donations to various other local charities. This is our only fundraiser for civic community. The Blue and Gold Star Memorial Dedication Ceremony will be held on Memorial Day after the annual parade. Any funds raised for this project will be used only for this project, along with planting and maintenance of the site. If you know a veteran, especially a World War II veteran, since not many are left and few of them are on Facebook, please call them and tell them about this event. Blue stars are available since 1946, and the Gold Star only came into existence in 2015. We will be the second club in Ohio to dedicate a Gold Star and the third in the United States. Canton is doing this one on the same day. Brooklyn has always been first in many things. But a University of Toledo student beat us to the punch. He contacted the Toledo Area Garden Club last fall, who sponsored him, and they placed a memorial at the University of Toledo last fall. And that ends my report.
Thank you, Mrs. Politsky. Next up is Mr. DeMarco.
Just a couple comments, I guess, about issue 3 and also the school levy. You know, some residents like to think they won and others felt like they lost. And at the end of the day, Brooklyn lost because this hurts our image from a public relations standpoint. And I will repeat what I said a few weeks back. I am very glad that a lot of residents really dug into what some of these issues were all about, how they felt it was going to impact the city and them, and then voted accordingly. That's how democracy is supposed to work. And I would just implore all of our city leaders, not only here that represent the city of Brooklyn, but also the leaders at our school, that when you are going to ask the residents for something significant, whether it's dollars, whether it's a zoning change, whatever, that you give them all the information up front, that we have the meetings in advance, answer their questions, so as a community, we can unite behind some of these issues, as opposed to having a lot of the back and forth that shows some of the ugliness of what happens when you don't communicate properly with residents. So those are my thoughts. We still have significant issues to tackle. So we didn't solve any problems by last Tuesday's election. So, you know, I'm willing to roll up my sleeves and tackle the issues that are facing our city. And I hope the rest of the elected leaders up here will do the same. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. DeMarco. Next up, Ms. Tomusko.
Yes, good evening. Okay, I have to weigh in on issue 3. I guess the first thing I'd like to say is, my God, I'm glad it's over. It was a fairly heated campaign on both sides, unfortunately filled with untruths on both sides, and I think that's unfortunate. I think there's 2 things that we learned from this. One is the residents like Memorial Park. Don't take away Memorial Park. It's possible to change it somewhat, but people value that park. That's the heart of Brooklyn for many people. And I know Ms. Pusey and I walked by iteration 2 of the planning of that, and we commented to Mr. Udris, because at that time there was quite a lot of building in Memorial Park, and we said, don't mess with Memorial Park. People use Memorial Park. People like Memorial Park. It's kind of, again, part of Brooklyn. And iteration 8, that was iteration 2, iteration 8 still had quite a lot of encroachment on Memorial Park. Now, yes, you can say we didn't do away with Memorial Park, but by the time you were done adding roads and opening roads and building buildings, and Memorial Park would not be the same that people enjoy right now. And I know I walk my pooch down there, and there are people in Memorial Park. It gets used. I think the other thing that came through, I managed to get to 3 of the 4 meetings. And first comment is, I'm very glad we fought very hard, again, Ms. Pusey and I, to have those meetings. They wouldn't have even had those 4 meetings to give the public an opportunity to hear what was happening had we not fought for it. It would have been discussed in planning meetings, and it would have been discussed in council meetings, but there would not have been an open forum like that. But one of the things that I know Mr. Udris commented on a couple of times is he said, basically, it comes down to a question of trust. Do the citizens trust the administration? Do you trust that we're going to do the right thing for Brooklyn? And I think one of the things that came through loud and clear is, no, not entirely. There isn't that level of trust. So that's a very, very fundamental thing that needs to be worked on. Again, people need to be given all the information. They need to be given it timely. They need to be given it truthfully. And then they will decide. And it is their decision. I need to recognize Mr. Herbig. He led a very, very vigorous campaign against the issue, and he did it for one of the most fundamental reasons that's been in the history of this country, and that's protecting his home. His home would have been negatively altered in his mind by the buildings that would have been behind what is now the park, and then all of a sudden behind him he would have had multiple story buildings. So some may call it selfish, some may call it self-centered. On the other hand, it's his house, it's his home, it's where he's lived. So that motivated a very strongly motivated and talented political operative to do a very extensive anti-issue 3 campaign. And I've told Steve a couple of times I've been disappointed that he exaggerated a lot of things and didn't always have the facts, but I can also say that was true for, quote, the other side. So the city in many ways misstated things and exaggerated things. I guess the one lesson from this, though, that I appreciate is don't ever underestimate the power of one person. Don't sit back and say, well, it's a done deal. The city's going to do it. What can I do? I think Mr. Herbig showed us what can be done, and I hope that he will work with us and support us as we go to the next phase. And that's the next thing I kind of want to briefly talk about is I haven't heard anything from the mayor. I thought perhaps the mayor might send out a note to council, just sort of what are we going to do about this? And I do want to sit down and have a talk with the economic development director. We spoke briefly. This isn't over. This isn't over by any means. There are still things that we on council can do in terms of incremental zoning changes that can help support some of these things. I think council would be very supportive. I don't want to let the St. Elias project go away. That's a good project. We need it here in the city, and I think we can change the zoning for that area with Mr. Udris's guidance to allow that project to go forward. So I don't think I want it to be kind of a zero-sum game. You know, he won, we lost, whatever. You've always got to have a contingency plan when you have a plan. And I think what we need to do is learn from what happened, move forward incrementally, look at the zoning one by one, and then see where we're going to go from there. So those are my comments on that. I was adamant in not telling people how to vote. I believe people need the facts, they need all the issues, and then they can decide how they wish to vote. So with that, there's just one other thing I have to say, and it's not anything about Brooklyn, but I just have to tell people, I've become a basketball fan, man, with these Cavs. I am just enjoying this. This is some of the best basketball you could possibly be watching. This team is at its absolute peak. And I've been watching the games, and I just have to congratulate them. So far, they've swept 2 conference finals and are going on. And I know this has nothing to do with Brooklyn, but it's just a great thing to watch, and I would really encourage people to take advantage of some incredible basketball going on right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Mrs. Belbeer.
Thank you. We've all have heard the term voucher program regarding our educational systems. It's basically a statewide scholarship program that allows families within a certain income range to send their children to the school of their choice with economic aid from the state of Ohio. Proposed Senate Bill 85 would expand the voucher system. Generally, a family of 4 making less than $49,000 a year is eligible for the full voucher amount. Senate Bill 85 would provide that starting in 2018, the family income limits would double to $98,000. The actual amount of the voucher would vary depending on district and other factors. The new bill would make 70% of Ohio families eligible for the vouchers. That would allow 1 million students across the state to receive them. There are pros and cons to the voucher system. For example, if money is going for the student choosing a charter school, that is money not going to the local system. In an analysis out of Columbus, if 5% of eligible families used the voucher system, the state would pay $402 million in tax dollars for the vouchers. At the same time, aid to school districts would be reduced by $328 million, leaving an added cost to taxpayers of $74 million. Right now, it's too close to call what would be the full ramifications if the proposed bill eventually becomes a law. May 15th, next Monday, the Rec Board will be having the Rec Board meeting at the Rec Center there, and that's Monday at 7 o'clock. So if anyone's interested in coming, please join us there. I just have a couple comments on issue 3. I just want to thank the people of Brooklyn for rejecting issue 3 by almost a 2-to-1 vote. Congratulations, congratulations. As you know, I was against this issue because it was not thought out and it did not express the true wishes of the vast majority of the Brooklyn residents. The same idea was considered years ago from previous administrations. I personally want to thank Mr. Steve Herbick and his daughter Brittany for all their time, their effort, their work, their money for objecting to this issue. They reflected the true position of the vast majority of the Brooklyn residents. I appreciate your passion, I appreciate your energy, I appreciate all your hard work as foot soldiers. Don't ever underestimate the knowledge of the residents, for they are hard to be hoodwinked. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mrs. Belbeer. Obviously, I was disappointed in Tuesday's election results. I was especially disappointed in the voter turnout. If I had to put it into perspective, I would say the majority of Brooklyn was disinterested. Less than 24% of the registered voters of Brooklyn showed up. for this election, meaning that only 15% of the Brooklyn residents voted against this, and a smaller number voted for it. So that is unfortunate that happened. We can say, well, the majority of residents thought this, the majority of residents thought that, but when you're dealing with less than 1/4 of the residents that are registered to vote, that's simply not the case. And so that was very disappointing to me. Hopefully in future issues, we'll be able to spread the information better. But I think even more than that is that hopefully the public will become interested in these issues. I am supportive of issue 3. I think it was a very forward-thinking issue. Issue 3 did not take away Memorial Park. I've said that 100 times. It's the truth. The feasibility study was being done on that, is still being done, and will be completed here. We'll have the results here shortly. But I do think it is a setback for our city. I'm not going to sit here and boohoo and cry over spilled milk. We will move forward. We will continue to try to bring back some of the revenue that was lost with American Greetings leaving. I thought Mr. Ardito said it best with the way he said this. That money is gone. It's not coming back, all $6 million. So this is a very outside the box, forward thinking issue. If I had to sum it up, I would say for the most part, the residents of Brooklyn, the folks obviously in this room being the exception, were disinterested. When you have 76% of residents who did not even vote on the issue, that's simply the numbers speak for themselves. Although if you hit, as Ms. Demusco said, we had to take sides, but my side did not win this particular issue. I'm proud to say that I spoke to all residents, whether they agreed with me or disagreed with me, truthfully and honestly regarding this issue. Unfortunately, I've spoken to several residents since the election has taken place who voted against the issue, and they based their vote upon false information. And that is unfortunate, that they would vote no based upon false information that they were given. That's unfortunate, and hopefully in the future, this will be rectified in future endeavors. I'm very proud of my support of issue 3, and will continue to support issues like it to help move the city of Brooklyn forward. Chief Melky, if you could in a report, I know you don't have a report this evening, but it was mentioned in public session about the dispatchers and why. Again, we went to the regional dispatchers. I know you explained it in a previous meeting, but if you could please explain it again as to why we went that route and why it was necessary to do so, I would appreciate that. Also, Mr. Ardito mentioned the Pediatric Brain Tumor Foundation. He comes up here every year since I've been on council to support this issue, and I applaud your efforts on that. It's a very noble thing to do, and I thank you for your work, not only on that, but for all that you do in the city as well. And also, Mr. Herbeck's been mentioned a couple of times, we disagreed on this issue, and we sat down for a long time and had a discussion on this issue, but I will agree with one thing you said tonight about abstaining from voting. I agree with you on that issue. I do abstain when it comes to alcohol-related issues because that is a personal conviction of mine, and so that's why I abstain from them. But on all other issues, I will vote either for it or against it, whether it's popular or not. So I do appreciate that, and I do agree with what you said on that. That's all I have to say with that. I'll move on with the mayor's report.
Thank you, Mr. Van Kirk. Good evening, everyone. I just want to clarify, Debbie, just one thing that you mentioned, that we wouldn't have had 4 meetings. That's not accurate. What you voted on was to add the 13th meeting. We had 12 meetings in the PUD. You and Kathy wanted to put the 13th meeting in the public meeting. So we would have had 4 meetings regardless of
Open meetings like that?
Yes. So I want to thank everyone who got out and vote last week. I heard the majority of residents loud and clear when issue 3 was defeated, but we still have work to do. This measure was a good faith effort by my administration to preserve a major corporate member of our community, and I stand by my decision to put that in front of council to decide whether that was going to go on the ballot. But when this door closed, my administration immediately moved on some other options for this corporate tenant because business retention is my utmost concern. We cannot lose any more revenue in this city. My directors and I will continue to work hard to make sure Brooklyn gets through these difficult financial times and we bounce back stronger in the end. But when you're elected to a leadership position like mine, not every decision is easy or popular, but that's what leaders do. They analyze the data, and sometimes they have to take risks that may not be politically popular. And you didn't vote for me to play politics or give you status quo. You voted for me to work to make the city better. And I will take this vote as a learning tool and continue to move on to different ideas and concepts that we've been working towards for the last several months. I also welcome City Council to put any of their ideas forward on how to solve this budget crisis we're facing in the near future. I'd like to give a big shout out to Ridge Park Square for sponsoring One School, One Book program. I sat through an assembly with kindergarten to third graders in Brooklyn schools who were all presented with the book Charlotte's Web that was paid for by Ridge Park Square. They also have a special scavenger hunt associated with this book and prizes lined up for the students. So I think this is a great gesture on the part of Ridge Park Square, and I think that they should be commended for handing out books to all of the Brooklyn students during this grade. Last week in a First Suburbs Consortium meeting, we covered some interesting topics pertinent to our community, namely the housing trends in Cuyahoga County, specifically related to the 2009 recession. In the last 16 years, Brooklyn's median housing sales peaked in 2005 at $127,000 and dipped to the lowest amount in 2012 at $75,000. In 2016, median housing prices here in Brooklyn were $91,625, which means we are only at 72% of our peak amount and 85% of our median price in the year 2000. So we have work to do. Our building department in the last couple of years have worked on several measures to help increase property value. They've passed some ordinances like the foreclosure and vacant property ordinances. They've started door-to-door inspections, and they've done rental inspections. And over the next several months, we'll be working on and rolling out some new programs to help strengthen our housing stock here in Brooklyn. One component that our community lacks and will continue to lack until the indefinite future is a new housing stock option, which is in high demand in today's market. Nevertheless, we'll focus on our time and resources on those random properties throughout our community that are dropping all of our values down. I'd like to thank my finance director, Dave Schaefer, on his diligent effort to prepare the 2018 budget so early in meetings. I know it's difficult to get 7 members of council in the room at the same time, but we must push forward on getting a complete budget by the end of this year. And when we look to another year of deficit spending, I look forward to an honest and open meeting tomorrow with City Council about Brooklyn's future. There have been several factors looked at between the building needs assessment in 2016, the city survey to residents completed in 17, and the mounds of paperwork analyzed for each department that were provided to City Council over the last several months. Our projected loss from American Greetings and issue 32 are holding to be true around 30% of our total income tax. So I look forward to tomorrow's meeting, and hopefully all council could come with some great ideas on top of what we've presented already. And lastly, I'd like to recognize the Kiwanis Club for their efforts in honoring our Brooklyn's National Honor Society students on May 16th. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mayor. We will now move on with director's reports. We begin this evening with our rec manager, Ms. McGinty.
Good evening. We are currently registering for volleyball, Learn to Skate, and day camp. You can register online at www.activityreg.com or during regular business hours. The Memorial Day Parade will be held on Monday, May 29, 2017 at 11 a.m. If you or your group or organization would like to be in the parade, please contact Tina at twestfall@brooklynohio.gov or 216-635-4284. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Ms. McGinty. Next up is the Finance Director, Mr. Schaefer.
Good evening. We have several dates coming up that I wanted to remind everybody about. Tomorrow, Tuesday, the 9th at 6 p.m. is the first City Council budget work session, and we will discuss the framework of the 2018 permanent appropriations. It'll be in the Council Conference Room at 6 p.m., and it is open to the public. We're starting the budget discussions much earlier this year to eliminate the practice of passing temporary appropriations before the permanent budget. The city's 2018 tax budget prepared in 2017 will be on the agenda for the next City Council meeting, May 22nd. And this is to ensure 3 readings prior to the summer recess in July and August. This is a compliance issue with the ORC, and we have to have it approved by City Council by July 20th. Basically, it forces municipalities to look ahead to the next fiscal year, and that's exactly what we're doing at tomorrow's council budget work session. I'll summarize the highlights for the city's revenues and expenditures through the first 4 months of 2017. But I need City Council's feedback on the major elephant in the room as far as the level of general fund deficit spending and how comfortable they are with deficit spending in 2018. The city's planning deficit to spend approximately $1.5 million during 2017. and I need feedback on your comfort level with the city's using the city's reserves moving forward. The city started 2017 with a general fund balance of just over $14.4 million. The projected deficit in 2017 is approximately $1.5 million, and that will likely knock the general fund ending balance below $13 million at the start of 2018. We've laid a solid foundation to begin the 2018 budget discussions, solicited feedback from the residents to help prioritize the city services that the residents valued the most. And all of City Council is invited to the second quarter audit committee meeting, and that'll be Thursday, May 25th at 8 a.m. And this meeting is not open to the public due to the city's audit in progress, which is the 2016 CAFR. It'll be held in the council conference room at 8 a.m. Thursday, the 25th. And we also have another city council budget work session scheduled for Tuesday, June 20th at 6 p.m. in the council conference room, and that meeting is also open to the public. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Schaefer. Next up is our building commissioner, Mr. Kolsar.
Thank you. I just wanted to give the residents understanding of how our property maintenance ordinance works in regards to tall grass. I know this has been a horrible spring for that, with more rain than dry days to cut grass, but as of now, so far this year, we had issued 22 violations, and today six of those were cut by the city because they were not cut by the owners. So everybody knows when your grass exceeds 6 inches, it is in violation. At that time, we would send a notice to you, and then if it's not cut within 48 hours, we would turn that over to our service department, which would then cut that within the week if it doesn't get taken care of by the owner. So that's pretty much it. I just wanted to make sure everybody's aware of that. I know it's not easy sometimes with busy schedules and with as much rain as we've had. We're not going out and citing people as soon as their grass turns 6 inches, but the worst offenders are going to be handled. If you have any questions on this or any other property maintenance, building department questions, always feel free to give me a call. Thank you. That concludes my report.
Mr. Kolsar, when it's turned over to the city and they get charged that, correct?
Correct, yes. Yeah, the city won't do that for free. Thanks for clarifying that.
What's the cost?
It's going to be a minimum of $150 per cut.
Probably hire pretty much any
Absolutely. Landscapers are much cheaper.
Yeah, much cheaper. Although Mr. Verba is
And they'll do a better job, no offense to Mr. Verba.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Kolsar. Then next up, Mr. Malkeep, Chief Malkeep, you could address that I asked earlier. Thank you.
Sure, Mr. Van Kirk. In order to be brief, the state of Ohio a few years back encouraged PSAP's public safety answering points to consolidate, and they did that by tying the funds. You pay a tax on your cell phone bill for 911 use, and then the states distribute that to the counties. Cuyahoga County gives us our money for our PSAPs, and they encouraged us to move to a consolidated or a regional dispatch. We decided to partner with the city of Parma about 1.5 years, 2 years ago at this time. There were some benefits aside from the lower costs, the grant money coming from the state, the emergency medical dispatching, the fire mutual aid. We are still working out some kinks. It's one of those things. It's going to take a little while. We have monthly meetings with Parma and our other partners that are in this to work out some of these problems. We're constantly examining our options, looking at our costs, at the problems that we're having, and all with the idea of serving our community the best that we can. Something at the end of the 3-year contract that the mayor and I will talk about. I think we have even a meeting Wednesday and Thursday this week with the city of Parma to talk about different issues. So something we're constantly looking at.
Basically, this was county-driven, essentially, is what you're saying. They were
state-driven through the county with the grant funds.
And eventually, it's looking like if you don't go to something like this, that essentially your 911 dollars?
Well, if you can probably be out on your own, but it's going to be at an extra cost than it would be sharing that. So there's a number of communities that are still out on their own and looking at the extra cost of buying all your own equipment. So
Very good. Thank you, Chief. Okay, we'll now move on to legislation for this evening. We begin this evening with ordinance 2017-36. Is up for third reading and adoption, authorizing the purchase of a Toolcat 5600 G Series Bobcat from Bobcat Company for $52,866.92 through government contract. I'll make the motion to adopt.
Second.
To adopt, Kevin Tansky.
Yes.
Barb Politzky.
Yes.
Ron Van Kirk.
Yes.
Tony DeMarco.
Yes.
Debbie Tomusko.
Yes.
Mary Bellbeer.
Yes.
Next up is ordinance 2017-38, up for third reading and adoption, authorizing the sale of certain city-owned vehicles through the Greater Cleveland Auto Auction, public auctioneers and gov deals for the purpose of disposing of city vehicles and equipment at public sale. Need a motion to adopt?
Motion to adopt.
Second.
To adopt, Kevin Tansky.
Yes.
Barb Politzky.
Yes.
Ron Van Kirk.
Yes.
Tony DeMarco.
Yes.
Debbie Tomusko.
Yes.
Mary Bellbeer.
Yes.
Next up is ordinance 2017-43. This is on second reading, but will need to be amended this evening. This is authorizing and approving the purchase and installation of security cameras and ancillary items for use at the Brooklyn Community Senior Center. I will read the portion that is being amended. It's under section 1. It reads that the mayor is authorized to enter into a purchase agreement for the purchase and installation of security cameras and additional ancillary items for use at the Brooklyn Community Senior Center from Bailey Communications Incorporated for $11,059.50 as described in Exhibit A, attached here to and made a part hereof. And I'll make the motion to amend.
Second.
To amend, Kevin Tansky.
Yes.
Barb Politzky.
Yes.
Ron Van Kirk.
Yes.
Tony DeMarco.
Yes.
Debbie Tomusko.
Yes.
Mary Bellbeer.
Yes.
All right, and that is on second reading. Ordinances 2017-44 and 45 are both on second reading, have already been read to the record. Resolution 2017-7 is on first reading, has been read to the record. Ordinance 2017-46 and 2017-47 are on first reading, have been read into the record. Ordinance 2017-48, authorizing a contract modification to the audit services agreement with James G. Zupka CPA Incorporated for the audit periods 2015 to 2018. We would like to pass this by emergency this evening so that the auditors can finish up. So, introduced by all, suspend the rules.
Second.
To suspend the rules, Kevin Tansky.
Yes.
Barb Politzky.
Yes.
Ron Van Kirk.
Yes.
Tony DeMarco.
Yes.
Debbie Tomusko.
Yes.
Mary Bellbeer.
Yes.
To adopt, Kevin Tansky.
Yes.
Barb Politzky.
Yes.
Ron Van Kirk.
Yes.
Tony DeMarco.
Yes.
Debbie Tomusko.
Yes.
Mary Bellbeer.
Yes.
And lastly, is ordinance 2017-49 is on first reading, has been read to the record this evening. That is all on our agenda. Does anyone on council, the mayor, any directors have anything else they'd like to say?
May I be recognized?
Yes.
I'd just like to make some comments regarding these budget meetings. So there's one tomorrow that I think at least 2 council members can attend. I don't know if there's more. And so the budget's kind of important, especially in light of issue 3 and some of the other financial issues that are facing the city. And I understand people's schedules are hard to coordinate, but to not have all members of council attend that meeting, this is why things aren't getting done in the city of Brooklyn. And I think you're going to continue to see this adverse relationship between the administration and council until, you know, we get our fair shake and have a meeting where we can actually have a real conversation about the budget and how it's going to impact the city. And the mayor mentioned, you know, she's not playing politics, but in effect she is, because the budget is supposed to be presented to council, and then council either votes yes for the budget or votes no for the budget. And the mayor is to come up to us, and I don't know, I'm not going to speak for the rest of the people on council. I would say that me personally, I'm not for deficit spending, and I did not support the budget for this year because when we had our budget meetings, we were not provided any new ways of providing services to our residents, and the budget was, here it is, you know, you could accept it as is or not with minor modifications. So what am I saying all this rambling is? The mayor needs to come to these meetings with her administration and present a budget to us that doesn't have deficit spending. And when that happens, I think we can have a healthy conversation. And I think until that time, you're going to continue to see this back and forth. That's not good for any of us. And that's all I have.
I'll just make one comment. In fairness to the administration, as far as the budget, there was a budget that was presented to us that did not involve deficit spending, and in our discussions, that was to close the rec center. So that was presented and talked about in meetings. We did discuss that. Obviously, it's not something that decided to do this year. I know Mary Jo has sent out numerous emails trying to find dates to get this ball rolling, and as many members as we can to have tomorrow for this budget meeting is great. There's been council meetings that have been set that I have not been able to attend, and that's just the way that things work sometimes. I don't think it's anyone playing politics, it's just the nature of the beast. Everyone is extremely busy. I've been out of the country and out of the state for every day the last 3.5 weeks except for 3 days. So, everyone's busy. And I understand Mr. DeMarco is extremely busy. I am as well. I'm not going to be upset if they have a meeting and I'm not able to attend. It's just the nature of the beast sometimes. And this is by no means our only budget meeting. We'll have numerous budget meetings. This is just kind of to lay the groundwork for what's going on. So.
May I be recognized?
Yes.
I encourage all of you residents, now is the best time as any to come to these budget meetings. This is where you actually hear open and candid conversations of what is going on. I wish a lot of you were there last year, only a couple were there. I encourage you all to come to these meetings. They're great meetings to come listen to, hear what's going on in Brooklyn. So that's all I have to say.
I just have a question. Yes. I don't want to directly ask Mary Jo, but I'm going to ask the mayor. Have you sent out emails or notifications to all city council members that these were the dates of the meetings?
Mr. Schaefer, you handle these meetings, so.
Yeah, the original date was on Thursday the 11th. I got several conflicts on that, and so we moved it to the 9th. I have, as far as the second one, set up in June for the 20th. I have Councilman Tansky, you mentioned to me that is a potential problem for the 20th. I have not had any other conflicts for that. That is going to be the last budget session, budget work session before the recess, and then I plan to have more budget work sessions in the fall, in September and October, before putting it on the agenda to be read 3 times in November and December. So again, this is very preliminary. We sent out the dates, trying to get as many council members in the room at the same
You put out
time.
multiple dates, correct?
Correct. So we went to the 11th, and then that did not work out. We got multiple conflicts, and we moved it to the 9th. When we got 5 people originally, we went ahead with that. That's what we could do for the first one in May. I have also extended an invitation to meet individually with the council members that could not be present, and I will, definitely reiterate, if you want to meet with me, to be able to, if you cannot attend and you want to be able to meet with me one-on-one, I'll go through all the documentation, and I will send out all the supporting documentation to council as a whole as well, as far as what's going to guide the discussions.
Well, there were dates that were sent to me, multiple dates. And Tony, I agree with some of what you're saying, that all council members should be there. I agree. But when there's multiple dates to be set, how many months basically do we go on before we can get anybody there? Everybody there present. Sometimes people's schedules don't match other people's schedules. And I understand that. There was a date that, I think it was the 20th, that I might not be able to attend. I wouldn't ask this city to shut down their business because I can't attend. So I agree all the council people should be there and the administration should be there, but there are times where, being that we have other jobs, that we all can't be at the same meeting. So I don't think anybody's trying to play politics. I don't think anybody's trying to curb somebody from knowing some information. I don't think that's the case. But if there's a better date that we can all come together to be at that meeting, I'd be happy to get involved with other dates. I have no problem. But if nobody or some people do not respond either by email or call, and I don't know if that's happening, I guess I'd have to go to the mayor or...
Yes, we have a problem with that. People responding, not responding. I addressed it at the last council meeting. Mary Jo sends out several emails where there are multiple council people that do not respond by phone call or email.
Now, if that's happening, now that's a game, because you could pick up the phone, you can email. There's a lot of way to communicate to this city hall. So there's no reason why Mary Jo or the mayor should have to run after any one of us. Call or email, one or the other. Now, if that's happening, that makes getting the meetings together even tougher. That's all I have to say.
Do you have anything? Ron, I might as well weigh in. Mr. Baker, 20 seconds. I just wanted to comment. I don't think the issue is getting together for meetings. We all have a very busy schedule. This is obviously a part-time job for us, and people come as they can. So I don't think that's the issue. I think from a budget standpoint, one thing that I'm still waiting to see, and last year was my first time sitting in on a budget session. So again, I come from a business background, so I expected to see the head of the company present a budget that was based on a plan for the city. What was the vision for 5 to 10 years out for the city? What is the budget that we need to support that vision? What are the goals and what are the objectives that the city wants to achieve? I wanted to see goals and objectives set for each one of the department heads and then have them evaluated according to meeting those goals and objectives. I wanted to see some more solid data-driven evaluations and measurements of the city. How do we measure how many variances we give, or excuse me, how many, lost the word, how many things that people are doing things wrong? How do we measure police response time? How do we measure? If we're not doing that in the individual departments, we can't begin to understand where to cut and how the departments are operating. I have been a proponent of lean operations, and that takes a look at the processes that are being followed. It was employed by the mayor of Lakewood very strongly, and it allowed them to streamline a lot of processes and look at doing things differently. I went into the last budget sessions basically having our finance director, who's quite excellent, sort of lay out the council and say, well, here's the problem, what are we going to do about it? And I frankly would like to see an approach where the mayor and the finance director and the department heads sit down, take a hard look at their departments. And I'm not saying, try zero-based budgeting. Try saying I don't have any money and I'm going to justify every cent that I need, as opposed to saying, okay, fine, I have 200,000 and I'll make do with the 190 because I'll stop doing city services. That's basically the way the budget was done last year. Is I have this amount of money, okay, fine, we'll stop cutting trees, we'll stop answering the phone during X hours, and we'll close the rec center. It was all cutting city services. There was very little that was, what is the administration cutting? What about the administration cutting their salaries, cutting back their paychecks? And finally, I just want to conclude, I gave lots of suggestions in those meetings. I was bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, and I got in there and gave multiple suggestions. What about this? What about that? Do we really need these two people sitting here when they could be out on the street? Do we really need this? And basically, I got stared at by the mayor and several other council people. And frankly, It's not necessary for all the council people to come to the meeting, because I've sat in meetings where council people don't say anything in the budget meetings. But anyway, I gave a lot of suggestions, I gave a lot of heart, a lot of passion, a lot of ideas, a lot of experience. And then I sat up here and had the mayor say to me, excuse me, as a council member, council didn't give any input into my budget this year. All they did was ask for $10,000 for their own fund, and that's all I got from council. Well, I'm sorry, that's just not true. So what I'm looking forward to is seeing a budget driven by the goals of the city, the objectives of the city, where do we want to be as a city in 5 years, and what is it going to take to get there? What's each department going to do to get us there? How are we going to measure the department heads? And then let's plan a budget around that. The budget isn't the first step. It's how you support and pay for all the things that you want to do. That's my 2 cents on the budget, but that's how it's done in real things.
Yeah, go ahead, Mayor.
I just encourage all of you to come out to these budget meetings. Thank you.
Yeah, please do.
And may I be recognized?
Yes.
So, just to be very clear with everybody, the budget that was presented to this council for 2017 was a budget that had deficit spending. There was no budget presented to council where the rec center closing was in the budget. It was a discussed item in passing. It was not presented to council. There was no detail behind it. So, again, these are the kind of things where, you know, back to the meeting several weeks ago before issue 3 was voted on, you know, do you trust your elected officials? It's tough. You know, Mr. Van Kirk, at the beginning of this year, everyone was trumpeting, we're going to save $600,000-$700,000 in the budget this year. In actuality, and it was confirmed by our finance director, Mr. Schaefer, the savings was going to be roughly $65,000. You've never heard anybody on this council take back their comments about the savings, have you? You haven't. It hasn't happened. And so until we get to the point where we can be honest with the residents, we're not going to be able to solve these issues that are facing our city. And I don't know what it's going to take. And that's all I have.
Well, I'd be happy to address that. The number that I threw out there, and this was discussed in a budget meeting, and Mr. Schaefer acknowledged it, we passed a temporary appropriations budget at the end of last year for 2017. When we came around to it, there was, whatever the number was I said, was cut from that appropriations budget. Now, the actual expenses that were actually saved was the $68,000 or whatever. So, I mean, that the city had already budgeted and was approved by council the temporary appropriations for 2017. So it wasn't, you know, and Mr. DeMarco is right, there was never an actual budget that was presented to council of closing the rec center. But we did have that discussion. And if we wanted, and it was discussed at length, if we wanted to cut and have zero deficit spending, and there's been no one that's been more against debt and deficit spending than I have on this council. In fact, we fought about this back in 2012 about the debt issue. And if we were going to close that gap, that was what it was going to take. And at this point, I decided, and with my vote, I get one vote, that wasn't the proper way of doing things, at least for the 2017 year. Now, for 2018, again, that's why we're having these discussions now. And, you know, I think we should have this meeting on Thursday, or tomorrow, Tuesday. And again, if I couldn't be there for that meeting, I would certainly not ask council not to meet. I mean, it's just the way that it is. I've actually met with Mr. Schaefer when I have not been able to attend things, and he's given me the rundown of what happened either through email or through phone call. So, you know, I look forward to these meetings, and, you know, I think that we're going to present another budget this year that's going to benefit the residents of the city of Brooklyn. At least that's my hope. Anyone else? Can you get a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
To adjourn, Kevin Tansky.
Yes.
Barb Politzky.
Yes.
Ron Van Kirk.
Yes.
Tony DeMarco.
Yes.
Debbie Tomusko.
Yes.
Mary Bellbeer.
Yes.
Yes, that was it, just.